But let's start with the significance of this. What do you think?
Huge. Huge. You see the reaction of the players, and obviously they've got to play it down a little bit, but huge. Huge result, great performance. City obviously look way off it. I know there's lots of stats we look at after the game, but we're watching it live here, and Liverpool were so well ahead of them. Defensively, rock solid. Energy, pace, power. They should have scored a lot more goals. They had a real desire then to keep a clean sheet at the end. Outstanding Liverpool performance. I thought they mixed their game up really well, particularly the first half. When to play, when to go long. They turned up, basically. Particularly their big players. We saw two of them there. I thought the two players were outstanding.
Given the level of the quality of the opposition, Daniel, the history of this fixture as well, and what was at stake, how close were Liverpool to almost perfection with that performance?
Very close. I mean, they controlled the game for the most part, really, in terms of, not conceding too many chances. The first half, City didn't really do much, to be honest. And then, of course, Doku comes on, does a little bit. But besides that, Liverpool had full control of the game. They were threatening, runs in behind, tenacious, attitude. They looked like they wanted it. And there was that feeling in the stands when you hear the fans roaring. And when City, had moments, Liverpool's fans were like, let's, get right behind the boys again. And the players and how the manager set them up today as well, I think, was magnificent. He had the midfielders pressing all over the pitch. They set the intensity for the team. All round, fantastic performance from the players, and it was really professional performance as well, because you can let it get out of hand, and they didn't let that happen.
I think you expected a reaction from City, didn't you? I don't remember seeing Pep Guardiola reacting quite like that before, as he did to Liverpool fans singing about him being sacked in the morning.
No, obviously he's going to be annoyed. We've talked about Pep since he come to the club. Obviously his first season was difficult, was nowhere near winning the league, and then he started building that momentum. And what City have done over the last couple of years has been staggering. We did the game last week at Spurs, and he asked me, is it a crisis? I said, no, it's not a crisis, because, you go into the Champions League game and you think, OK, 3-0 up, and then it's free. And now you come to Liverpool. And it's not just the fact that anyone can come to Liverpool. At Anfield, great stadium, fans were exciting, and it was like a fortress at times. But it's the way they got beat is, for me, I've not seen for a while with this City team. You can talk about the defence, you can talk about midfield, you can talk about attack. It's the collective. If you look at the difference between Liverpool and Man City, they was all together. At times, Man City, they was just disjointed, didn't sort of know what they was going to do. They sort of put Rico Lewis on the right. Obviously, we've seen him in midfield, and he's a right back by trade. You got Mateus Nunes on the left as well. So they got into these good opportunities, but they couldn't do anything with it. It just feels like everything is a yard off.
So does it seal in your mind? You talking before the game about if they lose potentially, possibly, maybe, that means they're out of the title race?
No, I think if you're looking at the stats, if you're looking at the game, and you're analysing the game, it's bleak at this time too. I'm not going to rule them out completely, because football is like that, but I can't see him catching Liverpool at this.
I think it is almost a mini crisis for Manchester City, and I think it's reminiscent of Liverpool 2 years ago. And I actually think Man City might have a fight on their hands for top four. I actually look at Arsenal and Chelsea and the way they're looking right now. I think it'd be difficult for Man City to finish above them if they don't go into the market in January. And I go back a couple of years, the season Man City won the treble. Liverpool went to the Etihad, I think, in about April, and got beat 4-1. And it could have been 6 or 7, got absolutely battered. And you felt like it was almost the end of that Jurgen Klopp team. But what it was the end of the midfield. This was Henderson and Fabinho at the time. And no matter how good a manager you are, you can't fix that. I don't think Pep can fix that in terms of midfield. Now, this has been going on for 4 or 5 games. He needs to buy players in there. Now, if he can do it in January, who knows, but may need to wait till the end of the season to fix this, because right now I could see Man City maybe losing another 4 or 5 games between the end of the season. And I look at the energy Arsenal have got and the energy sort of the young players Chelsea have got. I think it might be difficult for City to finish above either of them.
The midfield looked weak today, wasn't it? The midfield's a huge problem.
The only thing I would say to that, Carra, is Kovacic, missing Kovacic as well, and we know.
But he can't run either.
No, but in terms of the way Man City set up, when they played in the games that they normally dominate possession, it's on transition, what we've talked about Man City. It's like when you're playing the top teams now. So I still think they're getting to the top four because they dominate the ball so much. They're not often in these positions where you can get exposed, you know?
Daniel?
I think they do need a defensive midfielder, personally, a defensive-minded midfielder. When you look at who they have now, you've got Nunez, you've got Kovacic, you've got Gundogan, the list goes on. The majority of those players are attacking-minded or control players. They're not ones
so what
that
happens
are
if
thinking...
they don't get one of those? In the context, they lost 3 games last season. They've lost 4 on the bounce.
I don't believe that they certainly won't be in the title race if they don't, in my opinion, if they don't sign a defensive midfielder, because you're conceding chances against teams that wouldn't typically get chances against.
But what about Jamie's point? They could slip out of the Champions League.
I think that's a step too far, personally. I think they'll be in the Champions League because I think the best players they have will perform. They're in a rut right now. Haaland's not taking chances. Players aren't, performing to their level. But there'll come a point when it will turn, and Haaland will be flying in and maybe bang off 10 goals in a row, and then we're like, oh, they're back again. So you can't rule them out completely and say no Champions League. I think they get in the Champions League, but challenging for a title, I think they need a defensive midfielder to do that.
I go back to the Liverpool situation. Liverpool finished 5th that season. Now, we know these two teams have been battling for the title for so long, but when there's a lack of energy in there and everyone thinks you're vulnerable, I mean, Manchester City finished at one stage in the second half. They had Bernardo Silva and Rico Lewis as central midfield. I mean, Bernardo Silva I absolutely love. I mean, what a player. He's not a central midfield player. Rico Lewis is, a decent player, but I mean, that's nowhere near enough. When we're talking about, I'm saying, could they finish above? I don't think they'd finish above Arsenal or Chelsea. Look at what they've got in centre midfield. Look at the 3 midfield players Chelsea played today. Look what Arsenal have got midfield. The energy, the power. They can't compete with that at the moment, Man City.
Meanwhile, are Liverpool looking an irresistible force right now?
Absolutely fantastic. Yeah. And they've only had... but, we have to praise the manager. He's done an amazing job. But they were a decent group he took over. Whatever he's added to it, obviously his personality and...
Nobody thought, though, Roy,
no, of
that
course
they would go
not.
on this run.
No, absolutely not. Of course not. But that's the game we all love and watch. And you're watching teams and it can be unpredictable. And if you said at the start of the season Liverpool would be where they are now, you wouldn't believe them. You think they need locking up. But their performances, defensively, they're very good. Again, their big players are turning up for the big occasions. I know there's been a standing joke. They've not really been tested yet. But when they've been... even last week, I was at the Southampton game, they were awful, but they scored 3 goals and they won the game. Today, they're on the back of a big result in Europe. They turn up today. And when the game started, we're talking about the physical side of Liverpool against Man City. We're thinking, no way were Liverpool losing today. Absolutely not. And it wasn't just their effort. They showed great quality. And their decision-making in terms of possession was excellent.